My talk today is about leadership and life and the connection between them. We're taught to separate our work lives and our personal lives. But to be a successful leader, you must be a grounded person. That means leadership is personal, and who you are drives what you do. I remember the first time I discovered that I wasn't grounded. It was at Children's Hospital, and I was a young psychologist at the time, playing chutes and ladders with a little 5-year-old boy. And he started beating me, and I started competing with him. And I said, whoa, I was completely out of alignment between what I was doing and who I aspired to be as a human being. Here I was supposed to be helping him, but I was more concerned with winning. I was treating families of executives at the time, and I became curious about the impact that these powerful people were having on their families and how this might play out in the real world. I remember vividly my first forays into the business world. I went to a public meeting, I believe it was sponsored by the Business Roundtable, and I walked up to a CEO to tell him that I really enjoyed his talk. And he completely ignored me. And I felt firsthand the personal effects of raw arrogance and narcissism on my self-esteem. Later that year, I was in a Midwest company to interview my very first CEO, and I saw this woman in the cafeteria very carefully placing chairs in a row. And I said, why were you doing it? She said, the CEO loves me. The CEO was Max Dupree of Herman Miller. And I quickly began to realize the huge impact that leaders have on other people. They shed light or they cast darkness. They nurture health and performance or they make people and companies sick. And the choice is theirs. Those early days fundamentally changed me as a person and the trajectory of my career. Now, after 25 years studying and advising hundreds of CEOs in dozens of countries, I've come to believe that great leadership requires being grounded as a human being. And our research shows that grounded leaders significantly outperform their peers. This is true for all leaders in all walks of life, from the soccer coach to the factory supervisor to the CEO, across countries and industries and sectors and generations. Why is this so important today? Because our leadership model is broken. Let me say that again. Our leadership model is broken. Just look at the headlines in the papers today. Leaders in business and government, in the military and church, in sports and entertainment, who sabotage themselves, act solely out of self-interest, or undermine others. So what makes it so tough for leaders these days? Well, many of us find ourselves stuck in an old paradigm. It says what you do defines who you are. We're taught that our skills and actions, our accomplishments and our personas are all that matter, and our competencies are driven by the pressures for short-term results, often at the expense of who we are as human beings and our long-term effectiveness and performance. But I'm here to tell you that we must turn this paradigm upside down, that who you are drives what you do. Like a strong, healthy tree, we must be grounded by our roots. These roots are our fundamentals. They are our identity, our values, our purpose and character. So make no mistake, our behavior is very important. It just means that who you are drives what you do. And this is the core concept that really matters. Let me give you an example of someone I consider a grounded leader. I met Alan Mulally 20 years ago at Boeing. In 2006, he decided to make the shift from making airplanes to automobiles, and he went to Ford. And I spoke to Alan right before he took the job. The company was losing billions of dollars and the workforce was demoralized. Over the next 8 years, he mastered the what you do part of his job. He transformed Ford and mobilized hundreds of thousands of people. He became the CEO of the year, and in 2013, he generated $7 billion in profits for the company. And he walked around and gave checks for $8,800 to hourly workers as profit sharing. Last year, I visited him in his office, and I said, "Alan, what was the secret to your success?" He ran to his desk, got up, and he pulled a picture out that said, "One life, life's work." And he talked passionately about who he aspired to be as a human being and how that influenced his success as a businessman. Now, this picture was never part of Ford's annual report, never discussed on Ford's investor calls, but it was his path to success. You see, Alan had a model to shed light on Ford, and he knew deep inside himself that who you are drives what you do, and what you do drives how you perform. From the science of biology and psychology to neuroscience to physics to behavioral economics and organizational management, we now know what's possible and how essential being grounded is to building great teams and organizations. So let's take a look at the 6 powerful roots of being a grounded leader: physical, emotional, intellectual, social, vocational, and spiritual, and how they impact your health and performance. So let's start with our physical roots. This is all about how we live. You see, much of our life is dependent on our physical health. We all know this. Our bodies strive for equilibrium, yet we are seduced by our unhealthy lifestyles that cause decay that leads to premature illness. So how do you stay balanced in a world of speed and pressure? I was reminded how hard it is to sustain my own physical roots. This is when I gained 35 pounds while writing Grounded. I was so preoccupied with the task and the deadlines that I forgot about the model I was writing about. Fortunately, with the power of daily commitments, I took it all off again. You see, the healthiest leaders among us understand their bodies and minds and hearts and the connections among them. They know how to manage energy and recharge themselves and stretch to peak performance every day. The result is that they're stronger and they have more energy and stamina. So ask yourself, how do you sabotage your physical roots? And do you know when it's time to renew yourself? We live in a world of uncertainty where stability is an illusion. That's why our emotional roots are so important. It's how you feel. I was having a nice lunch at a conference in London with a gentleman from Chile when the luncheon speaker was introduced. And to my surprise, it was the guy right next to me, Nando Parato. He excused himself in a very nice way and walked to the stage. His life story mesmerized all of us. Here was a bunch of rugby players innocently flying across the Andes when their plane crashed at 11,000 feet. 3 days Nando was unconscious in freezing cold temperature for 72 days, and he finally walked down the mountain to rescue the group. You probably heard of the story of Alive. On that mountain, Nando chose to focus on possibility and positive emotions in order to survive. Today, you may not know, he runs the largest hardware store chain in Chile, and he teaches all of us how to embrace the uncertainty of leadership in life. Now, you don't have to get so close to death like Nando to learn about your emotional roots. We've all had crises in our life, from losing a job to having a health problem or a family difficulty, that help us see what's really important to life. You see, being self-aware is so critical to being a grounded leader. We're hardwired, fortunately, for positive emotions like hope and compassion and love, and negative emotions like fear and anger and sadness. But the emotionally healthy leaders like Nando, they feel the full range of their emotions, yet they make every effort to spend most of their time on the positive side. We must learn to bounce back from adversity, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and to fall in love with our imperfections. But we also hijack ourselves by being too attached to our past. We worry too much about our future, and we get shackled by the needs for perfection and control or success. So ask yourself, do you know the difference between vulnerability and weakness? Nando did, and he was a better leader and a better person for it. The third set of roots are our intellectual roots. This is how you think. We live in a complex world when every 18 months the amount of data in the world doubles. To adapt and innovate, we need leaders who can expand their minds every day. You see, we're born intensely intellectually curious, but somehow we lose our curiosity as we age. This is a quote from Kumar Birla. "Every day is a new day for me. The quality of the future depends on the quality of my imagination." Today, Kumar is 46 years old, and he's head of the Aditya Birla Group, one of the largest companies in India. I met him in Mumbai when he was 28 years old, right after his father died, when he was thrust into running a large conglomerate. And over the next 18 years, Kumar used his own leadership and life as a big experiment to reinvent himself every day and to grow the company in a big way. Leaders like Kumar teach us a lot about how to think in a complex world, a world of paradoxes and contradictions. How do you lead for today and tomorrow? How do you cut costs and increase revenues? How do you take charge and let go? How do you stay confident yet humble to listen and learn every day? So ask yourself, how are you reinventing yourself when you are bombarded with emails and bullets all day? It's just business, nothing personal. How many times have you heard that before? I hate that expression. I hate it. Everything is personal, especially leadership. We live in a 24/7 world where technology is rewiring our minds and relationships. Connections are everywhere, and you can't hide from anything. That's why our social roots are so critical. You know, we're actually more connected than you might think by mirror neurons. Go into a dentist office and hear the drill and feel the pain of the person on the chair, or see a person come in and smile and feel happy as a result of their smile. You see, our emotions are contagious, and our relationships operate like social electricity. We're energized and de-energized by each other. Now, if you ask most people, they would say that they want their leaders to be real people with integrity, who challenge them with courageous conversations and are full of empathy and fairness and respect. That's why I love the story of Duo Amal. Amal means hope in Arabic. Here are two young 20-something musicians, one from Israel and one from Palestine, who came together and turned their social roots, their music, into a dynamic piano concerto. Transcending political and national differences, they believe that deep communication can solve our problems. And they inspire me and us with hope for a better future. You see, the bottom line is that the best leaders live in a world of we, not I. Whether it's a team or a board or a neighborhood, they understand the power of collaboration. So ask yourself, do you bring positive or negative energy to your leadership with others? At some point, we have to take our energy and our emotions and our ideas and our relationships and create something of value to perform at our highest level. This is where our vocational roots come into play. I love Kay Koplowitz. She was one of the first pioneering women in the media business. She started USA Networks and has been a high performer her whole life, from the boardrooms of some of the largest companies to her intense tennis matches on the weekends. Kay defines success in her own way. She has this unique ability to tap into her own passion and unleash the passion of others. She's a master of learning, continuously raising the bar on herself and others, and turning rejections into opportunities by going over or under or around obstacles in her business and life. And Kay has stayed true to her calling, her commitment to women, in a second career by helping women entrepreneurs find venture money for their new businesses. Unfortunately, too many people succumb to complacency or mediocrity, or they become obsessed with winning. So ask yourself, when was the last time that you pushed yourself to achieve something that you didn't think was possible? The sixth and final route took us all by surprise, not just because we rarely talk about it in business, but because it was the most powerful predictor of leadership performance. The most powerful. These are our spiritual roots, how you view the world. Leaders with strong spiritual roots have a higher purpose in life. They feel part of something bigger than themselves. They live with a generosity of spirit, and they celebrate the differences among us and feel a sense of gratitude about life. They can be a church minister or a teacher or a football coach or even an investment banker. What makes these roots so powerful is that we are naturally hardwired for generosity. That helps us succeed in a global marketplace while being part of one sustainable planet. Spiritually healthy leaders build higher purpose companies and beat the hell out of their competitors, from Unilever to Stonyfield yogurt to Starbucks and Panera bread. So are you a giver or a taker? And are you a global citizen? So there you have it, the 6 roots of being grounded. Together they form a holistic, integrated living system, much like our human body, where our cardiovascular and our respiratory and nervous systems are all connected. We can't compartmentalize our lives nor our roots. Each root affects the others, and they all must work together to improve our health and our performance. The last point that I'd like to make is that I believe we are at an inflection point in our history, a unique opportunity to evolve as people and companies and as a civilization, to fundamentally change the way we think about leadership and life. Our neuroscientists tell us that 5% of our brains are conscious and that 95% are unconscious. So if we could increase our consciousness by 1 or 2 percentage points, the return on investment would be amazing. If we would live these 6 roots every day and nurture these roots in others, we would be happier, build healthier organizations, and our world would be a more sustainable place for generations to come. So let's look at ourselves in the mirror, and let's decide to bring our full selves to work today. So here's the big takeaway. Each of us has a choice every day to live our life in fear or to live our life in love, to commit to watering your roots or to starving them to death. You see, who we are drives what we do. And leadership is personal. We all have the power to make it happen, and being grounded matters.